Let's do it.
All right, and we're on the air, and I want to welcome Anna Brown to the Fifth Dimension. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's truly a pleasure to have you. I We were just talking about before going on, recording that I really resonate with the message that you send out, and you really talk about this sort of a remembrance of who we are, like naturally, and I feel that
Mhm.
that's a message that it's it's simple yet so complex in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Like it's been forgotten. And um, I would just love to start. You talk a lot about the concept of non-duality, and that's something that's really been coming up a lot for myself in my life. And I would love to hear sort of your take on what that is. Maybe if people aren't, familiar with the concept necessarily, but maybe also in the um, idea of how you've discovered it in your own journey of discovering and
Yeah.
embodying that.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now this conversation is non-duality. It just means not two. So we're
Mm,
having a monologue. This is life talking to life. And so the experience of personal identity or separation or the dream of me, it feels like it is separate from the whole, right? I am
mm,
kicked out of heaven. I am kicked out of paradise. And now I have to find that which is missing. But
mm,
nothing's missing because this is already wholeness. So that's the joke, you could say.
right.
But the individual self of me is always looking for wholeness, always looking for confirming this is heaven. I need to know that this is actually it.
Mhm.
Right? Another book, here we go, another workshop, another meditation course. And it's always, that's not enough. Let's keep looking. But this is it. So we could say true awakening, if we want to say that, is
Mm,
this right here without the itch of trying to get away from it or to understand it.
mm. Just embracing it as it is, and
Mm,
allowing that to sort of be in that just as it is. Because I feel like
mm,
you're right. The journey of self growth and awakening, as you call it, a lot of times it is about how can I continue down the path? How can I achieve? A lot of people mention enlightenment, and that's almost like
mm,
a buzzword in a sense, but
mm,
it is wholeness is here, like it's in this moment,
yeah.
it's all around, it's present, whether you want to tap into it or not. And uh, that's such a sometimes such a like a mind boggling concept to wrap around, because it's like, wait a minute, it's here, like it's already here, like it's it's truly something that I feel we don't talk about enough and preach enough.
Mm,
And
mm,
a lot of spiritual concepts, I feel, while well intentioned, can sort of still be in that, it talking about
mm,
the journey itself and reaching a certain stage. And a lot of times I feel like we don't necessarily know where when we're going to reach that stage. It feels like a never ending quest, I guess you could say.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, the never ending story. The never
right.
ending story of me is what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I want to be clear, because a journey is an appearance, we could say. The person is an appearance. The
Hmm.
destination is an appearance, right? Just like your dream at night. So it's real and it's unreal. So just like you
Right.
have a dream at night, where you're like, oh my God, my aunt was there. There were some vampires, some kind of crazy stuff went down. You're like, it felt so real. And then you wake up from it and you're like, well, it was real and unreal, right? Because you had the experience of it being real, but then you woke
Right.
up and went, no, just a dream.
Hmm.
So personal identity is very similar to our dream at night. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Right. And I feel like we very much latch on to personal identity. Personal identity is something that it's what are we beyond personal identity? Like a lot of times that's a scary thing to think about. Like we have
Mm,
our upbringing and our conditioning and our we're all born from a specific country. We take a nationalistic pride. Like we're taught all these specific things about who we're supposed to be, like these external factors. And I feel that when we start to look beyond that, we can start to see who it is we really are. There's
mm,
an interlying interconnectedness that exists. And that's something I try and bring out on this show all the
mm,
time in a bunch of different facets. Like how can we return to that state of
mm,
interconnectivity? What did this
mm,
journey sort of look like for you, in a sense of this remembrance? Because
mm,
it's taken myself a while, and I still feel that oftentimes I do need to, uh, I guess you could say, give myself that nudge, that reminder to sort of
mm,
return to presence and simply embracing wholeness here. Like it's something we have to, we've been conditioned to seek it externally. But what does that journey look like for you personally, and how have you, gotten to the point that you are right now in helping others remember this?
Right, right. So I used to be an intense seeker, right?
Mhm.
Here's another book. Here's another satsang. Here's another video. Here's another this, another this. So I was an intense seeker, and you can have a lot of cool experiences, like you're bumping your frequency or you're shifting realities. There's lots of cool, groovy things in the dream of me, for sure. But there's still this, it's an itch of seeking. I'm
Mhm.
going to find presence, but the kicker is there is only presence. The one who
Right.
believes they're stepping in and out of presence, we could say the mind. It's the dream itself. It's personal identity. It's the one who comes and goes and the one who forgets. That's the me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there is only presence. And so person is, we could say, a manifestation of presence, or you can say universe, or you can say God, or you can say the beloved. However, I like to say just energy. So there is only energy, and it can appear as a person. It can appear as someone who's desperately seeking, trying to find God. Nonetheless, that is God appearing as a person looking for itself. It's a
Mm.
huge game. So, like I said, this is a monologue. This is what we're all wanting to be. We want to be so fully in our body, so fully here, but the fractalization, which is just imagination of personal identity, says this isn't it. You need more courses, you need to do all these stuff, right? And
Right.
there is still a becoming even after the collapse of the dream of me, right? Like you age, it seems like you age, or you start a business course, or you start a new business, or whatever it is, but it's not you doing it. It's only
Mm.
life appearing to take that action.
Right. Absolutely. And this idea of like of the seeking, it's something that I very much have always resonated with the quote of Rumi of what you seek is seeking you. So I feel like there's great as you put it, like dreams within, like if looking back at my past self and where I've been in my own journey, I look back and there has been beautiful moments of bliss and
Mhm.
pure, I would say the most fulfillment has come through moments of pure presence. But it's I've found, what is it that I'm seeking? A lot of times when I look at like my purpose, it almost feels it's in a seeking mentality, a seeking mindset. Like my purpose is like I view my own individual purpose, for example, as to help others and help others remember our interconnected state and be of service how I can, and open hearted and empathetic in nature. But a lot of times I view that in a seeking mindset, like,
Mm.
oh, I need to reach X, Y, and Z. Like it's good to have goals, you could say. However, in that seeking mentality, sometimes I feel there is a loss of that presence, a loss of that, where can I manifest that purpose here and now? And I suppose that would
Mm.
be through presence. That would be through capturing wholeness. Um,
Mm.
but I feel sometimes with wholeness or tuning into that, a lot of times we look for that external confirmation, external validation on that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a very, not getting that instant reward can be a very,
Mm.
um, I guess you could say, difficult at first to really feel that wholeness, tap into that.
Yeah. And there's a reason why. It's because the sense of me, it lives on external validation,
Hmm.
right? So I always like to look to nature. The butterfly simply is, the rose simply is, the tree simply is, and it's selfless in that natural state of beingness. It's not flowering because someone's going to come by later with their iPhone and take a photo of it. They blossom because that is their natural essence. And our natural essence, we could say, is simply being. It's so natural. It's not a precogged thing. It's highly intuitive and spontaneous. Yeah. But the personal
Right.
sense of me sits, thinks, how can I save the world? How can I fix things? But here's the kicker: nothing's broken. And when that's recognized that you're not broken, the world you're seemingly residing in is no longer broken. You
Right.
see, because we tend to operate and communicate to each other like, I know more than you, or maybe I can help you, or the world is broken. And we almost reinforce that dream on a collective level. But there is only wholeness, and wholeness can appear as, okay, I'm broken, I'm going to help broken people. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just a dream, you could
Mm,
say.
absolutely. And
Mm.
that idea that nothing is broken, that's something that's been so prevalent in my own life recently, in the sense that I had this, I was watching a documentary and they had this moment at the end where they talked about humanity is not a disease. Like, we are a natural, like, we are here, we are
Mm.
alive, we are interconnected with earth, we are interconnected with one another. Yet we're all fed the idea that we have all these flaws, and collectively there are certain manifestations that are certainly, detrimental, to say the least. But the idea that we're a broken species, or a disease that's in itself, I feel can really disconnect us. And I say disconnect almost in a sense of a paradox, because the
Mhm.
disconnection is truly never, it's
Yeah.
truly never disconnected. But like, it's that it enforces that concept of
Yeah.
um, us feeling disconnected, and us not recognizing that wholeness and that being. uh, and
Right.
and I feel that I wonder what steps can be taken, if it's sort of just it's going to take individual shifts to sort of see that remembrance take place at a collective level, or what that process might look like. And I don't necessarily know, because I'm a teacher, and I try and the best I can bring these
Yeah.
concepts to the forefront, and hope the
Yeah.
next generation can just continue into this remembrance. But uh,
Mhm.
it's a little easier said than done a lot of times. I mean, what
Yeah.
what have you been able to see, in working with clients? I know you do coaching and consultations.
Yeah.
In this, like, process of remembering, what have you been able to see take place? And maybe what are steps that people, you've worked with, or you yourself have found to be
Yeah.
helpful in this process, or like in
Yeah.
that sense of remembrance, to return to that?
Yeah. There is no steps,
It's
because
just
as soon as
being.
we say there's a step, we create division.
Right.
This is heaven. This is wholeness. You are magnificence, appearing as a person, asking how and what the steps are. And
Mhm.
so really what it is, it's seeing through the story of me, because the story of me wants steps. It wants direction. It wants to know what to do to fix what is. But what is wholeness. Everything is God going, dude, look at me. Look at me in the flowers, the birds, the bees, the sunshine, the tears you're weeping, the anxiety in your body. Everything is that one life force energy pulsating in what we call life. But the me lives outside of life, and it's looking and it's manipulating and it's controlling. But here's the deal, the me has never made a choice. The sense of ego, we could say, or personal identity, the veil or separation, it believes it's controlling and doing everything, making huge decisions. But quite literally, the sense of me is like stepping into an arcade and it's playing the game on demo, thinking
Mm.
it's making all the points and winning, but it's playing on demo. There has only been life wearing the costume of a human, or we could say God, whatever we want to label it as. It doesn't care what you label it. Yeah.
Mhm.
But everything is that appearing, because past, present, and future are the dream. Past doesn't exist. What I'm saying now has no connection to even 2 minutes ago. That's a
Right.
dream. And what happens after this is only a concept and an idea you're holding in your imagination now. It doesn't exist.
Right. Absolutely.
That's the predicament of the person, because it lives in a psychic world of its own making. And so worlds are highly personal. We live on the same planet. Worlds
Mhm.
are highly personal based on your imagination and conditioning.
Absolutely. And it's very much like, and I think we very much we're taught to very much personalize our experience. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that plays into the idea of, sometimes can play into the idea of a feeling of disconnect. But you're right in this sense that nothing exists but this present moment. And that's such a concept that, you know I feel like a lot of times when we talked about that journey earlier, right, when you're reading different books, you're listening to different lectures, and you're finding all this information about being here now, and just
Yeah.
referencing Ram Dass, where I first heard that concept. And this idea of presence, wholeness, it's all that exists.
Mm.
And a lot of times I feel like we do just sort of forget that. We attach to a destination, to the journey itself. And you know like we mentioned with the idea of one's purpose earlier, it's a destination. It's not we forget that the purpose is in this moment, here and now. And that's something I would say I have to continually remind myself, because
Mm.
I feel for example, my podcast, it's part of the purpose. It's a foundation for purpose and a manifestation of that. And it exists here and now. I can think about what I want to do with it in the future and plan out everything. But here and now lives what the purpose I am trying to manifest and bring out. And when we talk about, when I work with students, I just begun to take clients for, consultations and meditations and working with that. Just the connection to the present is where I feel that we can see that purpose and feel that purpose and embody it. And I feel like embodiment is what wholeness is. And I don't think we necessarily teach embodiment. We don't, our systems don't emulate that natural concept of it and how to live, feel, and be in this moment. And for me as a teacher, that's something so difficult to integrate within schools. Because you always have to, we have a test on Friday, or we have to do this and that for the future. And I feel that idea of the journey and prepping is very much emulated in the sense of let's work towards a future destination. And I feel that's very much almost like the third dimensional space of consciousness that we've been embodying as a humanity for a while. And I feel like maybe the way that we can embody is through heart-centered consciousness and heart-centered living, and make that our primary operating system. I mean, do you have experience in the sense of working with people to open up that heart and our heart-centered consciousness, and what and how you could speak to that? I don't know if I necessarily know how to phrase it.
Yeah, no, I get you. So everything is the heart. The heart of the matter is the heart. You see? And I used to operate in this fashion of teaching beings how to open up and all of these things, but I was always coming from a subject-object relationship of you're outside of me and I'm going to teach you what you already are. And so in my sessions, it's just, I'm a mirror. I just reflect back to what is, because what is heaven. There's no movement. See, the me wants information. It wants me to tell them what to do, but there's no you. Ego and personal identity is only the dream. There's never been a separate you. Okay, so everything is the divine appearing as, oh my God, I'm separate from the whole, and I'm going to learn meditation. I'm going to go and learn all these cool mantras, but that's just spiritual busy work. There's nothing wrong with those things, but it doesn't reveal what and who you are, which is absolutely nothing. See, the whole realm of the person is I'm becoming somebody, but that's more in the realm of therapy and personal empowerment. What we're speaking about here is that there's actually not a person inside that body. There's not a person inside of here. There's nothing in here. It's energy appearing as Anna, energy appearing as Evan.
Right.
Oh my God. So there's never been two. That's what non-duality means. Not two. There's only oneness. However, I rather say zero. There's nothing here, but it's appearing solid. Quite like the atom in physics. It's empty space at its core. And we're made of atoms. This is vibrating emptiness. It's the mystery. All of this is a mystery we can't know. It's only an intuitive recognition, you could say. So isness recognizes isness, or God recognizes God, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And we're all I very much resonate with the phrase of, I think it's God. We're incarnations of God manifesting to self-discover and, experience ourselves essentially. And there is that oneness, that idea, we are all interconnected. And I remember reading an article just yesterday about, someone sent to me, about quantum physics, how I'm not a scientist by any means, so I haven't taken quantum physics, but within quantum physics, there's these assumptions that they have essentially ruled the field of physics for a long time, but they're now going to be broken. And what is broken within it is the idea that events that happen in one place, the assumption was that they have no bearing on something, a different action completely far away or at a completely different space. But because of sort of the observations that are being taken place within their studies and all of the advanced scientific things that they're doing, as you can tell, I'm not a scientist, but it's almost reinforcing this concept, the spiritual concept, through a scientific lens of interconnectivity. And at the subatomic level, it is all of the same. We are all
Mm.
of the same uh, atoms, matter,
Mm.
and I feel that is when we can embody that wholeness of that, we can begin to live in alignment with our highest self. We can begin to live our
Well, here,
purpose.
that's also a story too. The higher self is only a dream. There is
Mm,
only the self. So higher self, feel into this, brother. It's outside of you, and I'm going to reach it.
mm,
And I used to play in that paradigm too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to say lower self and higher self already creates distance and separation and a
right,
hierarchy. There's no hierarchy in heaven. There's
right,
just this. There's just
absolutely.
this. And so when the separation or the veil collapses in you, which is the belief in personal identity, that I am real, this is real. When that collapses, that's it. That
Mm,
energy stops. Trying to understand what this is stops. Trying to get to the next moment stops, because the whole root of suffering is the belief in me.
mm,
And that's what non-dual really points to, is there's no separate you. And
yeah,
that's why I'm reeling you back. I keep reeling you back to, there's just this. This
there's
is it. There
there's
is no separation. There is no separate you with free will and choice. That is an appearance that appears within the dream of me. And it's not wrong, because everything that is appearing, whether you feel fractalized or you feel like, oh my God, I'm becoming the next millionaire of America, it's all God playing. All of it.
right, 100%. And I absolutely agree with that. And I hadn't thought of it in the perspective of hierarchy within oneself when you refer to the higher self, because a lot of times it's used in the sense of achieving one's fullest potential and being this version of you and embodying who you want to be. But in reality, what is there outside? Like, there isn't it is a dualistic concept to say that there is my higher self and then there is a lower self, and maybe I'm somewhere in between. So it's
Right.
and I feel like everything, it's almost like we use this language as a everything in our reality is hierarchical. Everything is
In the me's reality. Yes.
yes in
In the me, which the me is a dream.
right, right. And
Okay.
it's like we to sort of try and explain, we make sort of a hierarchical um, division so our minds can wrap around a lot of these concepts and explain what we think we are perceiving around us that appears as separation. I mean, when in reality we are all one. It is all of the same um, sub basically the same molecular level
Energy.
energy.
Yeah.
That's the right word. And with that idea of hierarchy, uh, I very much I studied history, so I look at hierarchy existing throughout human history. But once you go past, like, before the days of humans, hierarchy isn't necessarily something that exists in a sense. We try and place a hierarchy around maybe like uh the food, like if you're looking at the food chain, right? And you just like,
Mhm.
oh, this animal rules over that one and they eat that. But in a sense, humans have just since we have this separation engraved in our
Mhm.
minds, we sort of have placed that hierarchy onto everything around
Mhm.
us. And so
Mhm.
when I suppose what I'm trying to say is, when we can eliminate that concept of hierarchy, I feel like we can truly embody interconnectivity. We can truly embody non-duality. And because hierarchy is something that I've spent a lot of time trying to see where the origins of conception of that exists. Where did that come from? And I feel that what you've been able to tell me throughout this episode is sort of conceptualizing that it exists simply because of this dualistic space that humans have organized themselves in, I suppose.
Ah. Yeah, you can think of, there is only wholeness, but the veil is I'm a real person. So when we go, I'm a real person, it is duality. So the personal identity, it's the world of duality. And so what I say is what's going to happen is the me dissolves and then you're just left with this. It's kind of like when you open the curtains to the stage. It's like, oh, there was a stage there the whole time. The curtains
Mhm.
were just closed. The veil is the belief in separation, but it's not just a belief or a thought, because if we could change our thoughts to oneness, then we would see that it's a whole body contraction, like from
Right.
the head to the toes of I'm separate. And so just like a blossom that was originally a bud,
Mhm.
that's you could say that's the ego or the personal identity. It's going to blossom just organically. Not, do you think the flower's like, okay, today we're going to mantra our way into blossoming, or let's create a vision board so today we blossom? No, it's completely organic and spontaneous. And the kicker is the ego is actually never there, or personal identity.
Right.
It,
100%. You know, and
mhm,
nature has a way of flowing, never rushing, and yet everything happens as it's supposed to. Everything is on
mhm,
time. Everything is
mhm.
synchronistic. And you know, when we can embody ourselves, when I find, you know, I'm embodying myself in this, in wholeness and oneness, and because feeling into that interconnectivity and letting the minds be silent, I can see the like the synchronicities manifest into this, into my space, into my being. And I can truly feel that and embody that. And it goes beyond the concept of language, like these topics. A lot, it's very
Yeah.
much it's an intuitive knowing.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so I think that can be sometimes why it is so hard to, if we're you know, humans love to rationalize everything, like we that's, you know, it plays
Mm.
into that idea of separation, and the quest for this, I guess you could say, knowledge, or just
Yeah.
your
And that's it. You said
destination.
it right there, brother. It's knowledge, knowing. So
Right.
knowing has got us into this trap. Unknowing gets us out of it, you could say. So this is really about death. It's about loss. It's about
Right.
unknowing. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know the words that are coming out. I don't know this. It's a mystery. But because I don't know, you know, spontaneously words come out of my mouth, or I write something, or I create a video. You know, it's the knowing that veils, right? I know that I'm a person. I live here. I know that I'm on a journey. That knowing veils wholeness. It veils heaven, right? And if you've seen my videos enough times, I talk a lot about the knowing being like eating the apple from the Garden of Eden.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we're cast out of the garden seemingly because we want to be like God. We're going to become, we're going to know. That's the dream called Maya, the game of me. And
Hmm.
so once the me dissolves, you're just left with this because it's just the knower. Now, I'm not talking about like, I know that, you know, I'm a female, where I park my car, where I go to the grocery store, not that
Right.
kind of knowing, right?
Right.
It's the knowing of like obsessiveness of, I know what this is. I'm right. You're wrong. I know that this is actually real, but how do we know anything? Most of it was spoon fed. And so
Hmm.
this breaks down all the concepts and beliefs that we have been spoon fed. And it goes, what do we really know?
Mm.
And through that unknowing and through that openness, magic happens. Intel is there. You see what has always been here, but without that veil of I know what this is. That's why that looks boring today. Because when there's no me, everything is fresh, new, and spontaneous. When there's a me, it's Groundhog Day, Bill Murray. You know what
100%. Nothing is ever
I mean?
truly the same. You know, we never live in the same moment twice. So everything around us is constantly changing, growing, evolving, because that's what nature is, in a sense. You know, if we look at the idea of, I had this thought a week or two ago about when Charles Darwin laid out this idea of evolution, of how humans came to be. I feel that very much explains the concept of what the universe is, in a sense of just constant. It is what it is. It's, you see growth, you see change, you see this process playing out, and I feel you can just sort of tap into that and align yourself with it and allow it to be as it is, instead of trying to uh, you know, figure out the particular destination. And I think
Mm,
there's something to be said about almost a blind faith and trust in that process, and going with that flow, and um, allowing things to be as they are. And uh, there's a sense of wonder uh,
Mhm.
excitement within that, and allowing that
Yeah.
process to be and feel. And I wonder, this is the quest for knowledge, but when if we were to see a shift from the the people of being wrapped up within identity, and
Mm.
the identity and ego sort of being the collective conscious level, to
Mm.
and seeing that shift in the collective, um, from that go go go, you know constantly,
Mhm.
the situation we're in right now, into this mindset that you of simply being as you speak, what
Mm.
that might look like. And I, I don't think we can necessarily know. That's the
No, that's
beautiful.
the thing. We don't even know what's going to happen 5 minutes from
Right,
now. We have no idea what's going to happen. We can predict, we can imagine, but that's just imagination, you
right,
know?
a hundred
And
percent.
so that's why I say it's spontaneous, just like when COVID showed up. That was spontaneous, right? No one knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Life is highly spontaneous. The person, though, it lives in a prison cell of preservation, and it wants to predict what's going to happen so it stays cozy in its prison cell of comfort. But this isn't about comfort. Enlightenment, awakening, it's not about comfort. It's life full on. It doesn't mean you're not going to get cancer. It doesn't mean you're not going to have like a dog bite your arm. It just means you are so full into life, there's no two anymore. There's no sitting and going, is this it? Should I be doing something else? Is it okay to sit on the couch? I'm not going to meditate today. Is that okay? There's none of that anymore. It's just life. It's just life,
Allowing it to play.
right? And all of that is that. And there's not even a person who allows it anymore. The one who allows and surrenders is gone.
Right, 100%. And you brought up the perfect examples of that, because I very much used to be very rigid in wanting to. I need to have this specific morning routine.
Yep.
I need to meditate this morning. I need to do my breath work. And a perfect example of that this morning was, I had my grandmother stay over the last few days, and that very much cut into the morning routine. But I was
Yep.
simply, oh, I'm just going to allow that to be. That's okay. I didn't do breath work. That's okay. Life is as it is, and not necessarily holding a judgment against that, and
Mm.
needing that sort of, and there's nothing wrong with, of course, with meditating and doing all
No.
these, wonderful
Mhm.
things in the morning, but allowing it to play out as it plays out, and not holding judgments and resentments. And uh, it I feel that is what allows true fulfillment. True fulfillment is being and presence, and
Mm.
capturing and embodying our natural state. And when I was living in a city, I lived in Boston for 5 years.
Mm.
And when I was living there, it was very difficult for me to embody my natural state with all the, in a cityscape, I call them concrete jungles.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily, there's not as much opportunity to, uh, I suppose you could say, be within nature. You're surrounded by our creation of, buildings and concrete. But
Mhm.
um, I if I were to go there now, I feel I would do much better than I was a few years ago, because I do have more of a sense of that there is, nature presence. It exists anywhere. It isn't something that you have to strive for and seek in. If you're in Boston and you feel disconnected from nature, you can still tap into that simply through presence, because there is always, everything around us exists. It is as it
Mm.
is. And
Mm.
I feel that is something that, like we said, it's hard to rationalize and conceptualize, but it's something that if more people can begin to tap into, we'll return to
Oh,
a
well,
more
they won't
natural
tap
state.
into it. What's going to happen is the person disappears. That's
Mm,
what happens.
right.
Because the tapping in, you think about it, you're open, you're closed, you're open, you're closed. I'm fine. I found it. Now I don't have it. That's the person. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, but it is the dream. It chases its own tail. So the tapping in,
Mm,
tapping out, connecting it, you can already feel into that. There's a disconnection.
yeah.
But even that longing and that yearning of, okay, I'm going to meditate, connect, is God pretending it's not connected, and it's going to get connected through an action. But
Right.
meditation, it doesn't actually get you to wholeness. Wholeness is meditating. There's nothing wrong with that. But most spiritual practices are for the me. It's a sense of OCD and a sense of, I have to do this before I can be welcomed into heaven or wholeness. But the kicker is, you woke up in wholeness and you'll go to sleep in wholeness. You can never step out of this. And so I can't divert from this message. It's very uncompromising. I can only affirm that you are that which you seek right here and right now, no matter the thought bubbles that are appearing in you, formlessness.
Absolutely. And I really love the connecting and tapping in paradox of that, because it is very much a dualistic mind concept. And
It is, yeah.
And I think with the idea of non-duality, it goes so much deeper than I think I even necessarily embody myself personally. Still on that,
and that's the thing too, the embodiment.
You
don't need to embody who you already
right.
are.
Right.
Oh shit, because here's the deal, we work every day to embody it, and there's nothing wrong with that. The me can play on, okay, I'm gonna embody empowerment today, I'm gonna embody sexiness today, I'm gonna embody joy today. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just playing with the rainbow, tasting the rainbow.
Right.
But you already are embodied, you could say. The body is a manifestation of light, of energy. There's nothing to embody. That's the game or the kicker.
Yeah, 100%.
So everywhere you go, you're there always. It's the love that's always with you, the best friend that can never leave you.
Absolutely. And that's the grand, I would say, paradox of like what I was speaking of, in the sense that attempting to embody is simply, like you just mentioned, attempting to embody is that. I don't even know if I have necessarily the words for it, but it's more of that, it's that intuitive feeling. It's like, I don't need to attempt to embody because I'm already.
You're just like, oh crap, oh crap.
It's like, why? Okay, I see. I like feel that concept now. It's like, I don't need to attempt it. I can just be it. I can just feel it. I can just see it. And that mirror that you speak of you being a mirror of that, I think that is the absolute most beautiful way to describe it, because it plays into, or it ties perfectly that interconnectivity. We are one, you and me, and anybody else listening to this. We are all one. And so you being a mirror, it's just a reflection of that same energy, of that same natural state presence. And that what we speak of now, this just being, it's accessible to everybody, everyone, in every moment. So, and that's something that I, with working with people through their own, conditioning, and through years and years, because working in a school, we're very, I see how there's a certain level of almost, I hesitate to use the word indoctrination, but it is a certain level of indoctrination to a egotistical mindset, chasing material, money, and external validation, like we talked about. So would you say, even in your own journey with finding non-duality within all parts of life and through being in all moments, would you say that it is a lot of times can be I guess I don't necessarily want to say a struggle, but it's easy for, especially early on, dealing with these, or working with these concepts, to find yourself playing into dualism in certain areas? And how could you say we don't hold judgment against that? Like, how do we release those expectations and that attachment?
Yeah, so everything I'm sharing is just words, right? But it's more so the energy of where the words come from. So, it doesn't matter what we call what is or God, it's just what we're pointing to. So tell me again what the question was. It already left my consciousness.
Oh yeah. So, when we sort of, when we're working with this energy, right? A lot of times I feel there is a lot of conditioning that we have, and certain expectations, maybe when we find ourselves, we have strayed away from presence and simply being. we can sort of hold judgment against that. And
Oh, for ourselves or others.
yeah,
Yeah.
for
I see.
ourselves and others. And,
Yeah. Well, you're not doing that. You're being done. You could say, we've heard that before. You're being done. So it's life that feels contracted. It's life that's having a depressing moment. It's life that's feeling scared, like it's not there yet. That's all. That's life. But the me comes in as added commentary and goes, it's my fault because last night I ate gluten, and that's why my vibration's low, and that's why I'm going to hell in a handbasket today. So we could say that the me is just added commentary, like things happen, and then it comes in with, you shouldn't have done that, or you should have done this. I'm so great. I suck at this. That's what it does. That's like all it ever does, right? So
Right.
it's not wrong, but it is just what's appearing. And what is appearing, this is real and unreal. So we could say it's an appearance. It's like a cloud passing by the sun. You know what I mean? It has no gravity to it. But when there's a centerpiece here, when there's a position here and an opinion here, those thought forms, those emotions, oh, they mean a lot. That commentary is everything, man. And then we kneel to it and we go, I'm listening to you today, mind. And then we're just following at the whims of memory, imagination, and desires, right? And it's not wrong. But once we see through the story of me, it's like, oh my God, I'm listening to a voice box in my head. You know what I mean?
Right. 100%. Yeah. And I feel a lot of what we view reality as, our perceptions create reality. So if we're following that voice box, like you said, that's going to be what guides us through the day. That's how we're going to interact with others.
It seems to create reality. That's the only thing I want to share, because like we said earlier, we were talking about, we live on the same planet, different worlds. So your world is your perception. Yeah. But when that perception collapses, me collapses. And so when the me collapses, when you look out here, it's clear seeing. You see life fully as it is. You're not cussing at the sunflower. You're not, you know what I mean? It's just, oh my God, there's just life. The tree's the tree. The bird's the bird. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that when we're clouded by our perceptions, it clouds the true nature of reality. And then we sort of, I feel, we hold judgments against reality, expecting it to play to our certain, that personalization of ego and, identity is what we almost sort of expect the world to play to what we are seeking when we have those expectations. And it's
of course, that's the me. The me is the greatest addiction, not cigarettes, not Coca-Cola, and not Oreos. It's the belief in personal identity is our strongest addiction. And that's why it's always struggle and strife, or it's swinging from polarity to polarity. It's the strongest drug.
Right. Absolutely. And it's
seemingly,
it's what we are fed from birth. It's what we are taught as a way to conceptualize our existence, because we are these beings that have this intellectual capacity that we almost don't know how to we put too much thought into it, in a sense. We try and explain our existence through our rationalization process instead of simply be within our existence. And I found through my own experience, the greatest teachings and the greatest experiences have come through just presence and just allowing things to present to me, and not necessarily in that veil that you mentioned earlier. When that's the veil that we have had in front of us for so long, when that's lifted, everything is new. Everything is so vivid, and like vitality is all around. And that's always there. I had a great chat with Dennis McKenna on this podcast, and he told me the one of the things that he has learned is, because I asked him about his journey and what he has learned. So, some generic question like that. And he said, well, the greatest thing that I have learned is that I know absolutely nothing. And that's okay. And that's perfectly fine. And this process of discovery of ourselves is truly a journey of not knowing anything.
Oh yeah, totally. The more you go, the less you know, for sure.
And that's something that I think can sound scary to our personal identities, to our egos, because it's like, wait,
of course.
I want to know everything. I want to be enlightened. I want this quest of knowledge, but
right. And that's the whole funny thing, is it's never going to see it. Oh my
Right.
God. Because what happens is it's the block in front of the eye and it goes out of the way and then it's seen. You know what I mean by that? It's
Hmm.
never going to be there to go, I made it. Because if there's
Right.
someone there going, I made it, there's still personal identity and they're taking ownership. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
an unknowing. It's a mystery. It's going back. When I say back, these are words. You're not really going back to the Garden of Eden, when the innocence, the nakedness, like you said, this childlike wonder of like,
Mm.
oh my God, I don't know what this is. I only know what I was told, but that was all, hand-me-downs.
Right. Exactly.
Mm,
It's past experience that no longer exists in the present
right.
moment. And there's obviously great teaching things you can learn from the past, and
Oh yeah.
there's certain, not to say don't acknowledge your past whatsoever. I think it's, it can give a foundation, I suppose,
Yeah.
but all all knowing and presence and fulfillment will come from presence and being, and simply uh embracing that and living in that. And you know with that idea in mind, when we when we live in that, when we see in that, when that veil is lifted, it's very easy to see how how society is operating in a sense, and understand division, and understand it's a lot of times when we're not present, it can feel overwhelming to engage in any of the world events or politics or any of that whole realm, right? But
Mm,
it's because I feel it's fueled from the ego. It's fueled from this idea of separation,
mhm, mhm.
because it lacks oneness. It lacks all that is really in life. So but when we approach these, uh for example, just like pollution and the
Mhm.
destruction of nature, and you know the Amazon is a perfect example, um, of us destroying a natural habitat. It's because we lack that oneness to it. We have forgotten about that energy that exists. But when we approach that from the space of presence and being, the perceived solutions, everybody wants solutions to these things we're
Mhm.
dealing with. The solutions are a s they're almost not in words, but they're right there. It's simply a return to a natural state, and we don't necessarily
Yeah.
need to know what that looks like.
Right.
But
Mhm.
and we can simply feel that, and we can live in that. And
Mhm.
it's very difficult when we're in the headspace of separation to we want to rationalize that concept.
Mhm.
Um, but then so I suppose what I'm asking on in this, I don't necessarily know how to phrase this question, but like when we look at this separation on the collective, and we want to simply return to this natural state, is that simply does that come from more and more individuals returning to this themselves and living in this space and being in this space, and then we see that almost sort of like a domino effect in a way, and
Mhm.
how that the more people who choose to live in this natural place, um,
Mhm.
it will that I suppose we don't have an answer to that, but um,
Well, you got to ask yourself first, who's looking at the world, person or presence? Because when the person
mm,
looks at the world, it's a veil of tears, it's hell.
right,
Everything is broken. When it's present, nothing is broken. Everything is a manifestation of perfection, and this includes COVID, this includes pollution. We don't
right,
understand why that's arising, just like we don't understand why we get the flu or why we have an outbreak of eczema or something like that. But what you see outside is a manifestation of your own body. So it
right,
is unconditional love appearing as destruction. And it's not wrong. See, the human lives in right, wrong, good and bad, better or worse. That's the
right,
dream. That's Maya. That's what you wake up out of, you could say. And it's
yeah,
not that you wake up out of, because you're already completely lucid. There's just a veil of, I know what this is, and I know that the world is broken. That knowing veils this magnificence that everyone is looking for through trying to change the world, trying to change themselves. There
mm,
is only this, and this is wholeness. And so it doesn't mean we're for war, we're for people burning down the Amazon, but it's this deep recognition and intuition that this is real and unreal, that everything is unconditional love appearing. And you may have the inspiration in your body to go start like a donation or some kind of fundraiser campaign. But it's not you doing it, and you're not doing it out of opposition or I'm here to do this and save this planet. Like that's all the stance of the me.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so all of this is highly intuitive and not logical. We use words and concepts, but like I said, it's about the energy of the words. It's all about the energy. It's not so much about what I'm saying.
Right. And it's that intuitive knowing. And it's
Mm.
a lot of times, I think like you're saying, that we use these concepts and words for it, but it goes beyond that. In that you have to feel it and be in it and be in that presence.
Well, and you don't even have to feel it or be in it, because who would be the one to be in it? You see? Yeah.
Yep. Right. Oh man. I see. And it's difficult for me to rationalize the concepts because I use these,
we can't. The whole brain is going, what the shit? I don't know. And it's all, and it's just going to, because there's nothing here for the mind. Have you noticed that? There's no teaching. There's no guidance. All I'm doing is confirming who and what you are and what this is now, which is a mystery. It's light appearing as solidity. And how does that not blow our brains right now, that this is a monologue, that you and I are light appearing as two people?
Right. It's amazing. it's beyond words, honestly. And you know, a podcast is generally words, but even someone listening, when we can I don't want to say tap in, we can feel what these concepts, right? Just from listening, watching, and there doesn't necessarily need to be that, a lot of times we look for that golden answer. We look for that. This is the solution. This is it. We found it out. But it's
the end of the questioner. Awakening is the end of questioning. So what happens is the one who questions and trying to figure this out, they stop arising. And when it stops arising, then it's just this. It's heaven is simple and ordinary. It's this, but without that itch of trying to get away from it. So of course there's like a higher vibration to it because the veil's not there, like lessening that potency, if you will, right? Because when the veil's up, it's like, oh, all the sun can come in.
Right. 100%. And it's interesting because there's also, I hear within a lot of spiritual circles, if you will, and conversations to question everything. So there's almost a lot of times the of simply being, where you're not questioning and you're allowing things to be as it is and simply acknowledging and that intuitive knowing. When you bring in this concept of question everything, then it's easy to begin the questioning of that intuitive knowing within itself.
Right.
So there's that when you can approach from the space of intuitive knowing, the right questions emerge when they need to, I suppose.
I feel you. That's true abundance. So questions still appear, but it's not like this urgency of then another voice comes in and tries to answer it, or you're getting online trying to figure it out right now. It's just like, oh, and there's just an appearance. That question is an appearance. So yeah, questions appear like, why is this happening? Okay. But it doesn't stick. It just floats by like a cloud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And there's when you come from that place of presence, questions, because the idea of question everything, like it's a good idea in theory because you want to, find the solution. It plays into that idea though of there's this golden solution because when you ask how deep does the rabbit hole go, it just keeps going. How far does Alice fall? She goes. Like
get some snacks. You're gonna be falling a while. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And it's. So when you're approaching from a place of intuitive knowing, that need for questions and that question everything mentality it's unneeded. It's just not. It's not from a place of presence, I would say, and that's one.
And it can arise, but it's just like, okay, that's just what's happening. It's not like I need to go figure this out right now. It's just like if a cloud passed in front of the sun, so what? There's a question of why this appeared, right?
Right, absolutely, and with coming from a place of presence and being and living out of our heart center, so what sort of, we're approaching about an hour, so I want to sort of,
Yeah.
what sort of, I guess you could say, wrap up thoughts or suggestions or things that you leave in this message that you would hope would resonate with a listener
Yeah.
to begin living in presence in a more just in everyday life, like in looking past our conditioning, looking past or allowing
Yeah.
our conditioning to be, allowing our past to be,
Mm.
allowing the future to be, when we live in a world that is so externally uh, fueled. That what suggestions do you have for striking that
Yeah.
balance and maintaining that despite a lot of times the external pulls and the
Yeah.
I think the where I'm
Yeah,
coming
well, all
from
I
with
can
this.
guide to say is that you're it now, and the only thing that pulls you out of this, that feels like I've got to learn more to get into heaven. I'm a sinner. My past life karma, man, have you seen it? Holy shit! All of these beliefs it's not real. It's not
Yeah.
real, and so meditation's beautiful, heart opening connections beautiful, mantras beautiful. Do them if it resonates, but if you're doing them out of a stance of I am broken. And doing this is going to get me higher up on the vibrational scale, and then God's going to love me and open the gates to me. It's a completely broken system based on fear, hierarchy, and you could say guru disciple type of relationship. And so this is an even playing field of equanimity. Am I saying that right? I don't
I
know.
think I don't know words.
Equanimity. I think that's the right word. Equanimity.
That sounds right.
And so yeah, it's understanding there is only presence, and presence can appear as, okay, OCD. In the story of Anna, I had a lot of OCD, anxiety, depression. I also had an eating disorder in the story of me. But seeing through that, it was clearly a dream. It was an experience. That's why it's called a human experience, just like your dream at night is an experience. So I can still recall memories of conditioning. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just a memory. It has no gravity and doesn't stick to me. But that voice in your head is not who you are. Right? And neither is the conditioned programming motions, let's say, of OCD, anxiety, hatred, depression. They're just appearances. And maybe your mom was hateful. Maybe your dad had OCD and that's what you observed and you took on energetically. But it's not who you are, and it's not wrong. And no one is to blame here, not even your folks, because your folks are a manifestation of God. Now, I cannot say why this appeared and why you have anxiety, just like I couldn't share why I had an eating disorder in the story of me. It's just what happened. But you are not any of those things. You are formlessness. You are energy. You are unconditional love that appears as all of these things, but it's not a knowing. None of this is a knowing. It's very much a heart intuition, like we've talked about this whole time. And so all I can say is follow what resonates, and never take advice from somebody who thinks that they know more than you and that they're going to get you to enlightenment, because all of this, babes, is enlightenment. All of this is light appearing as something else. And so you are that. You are heaven in disguise in everyday lives, always and in all ways.
That is absolutely beautiful, and a beautiful message that and you reflect beauty in this message, because this beauty exists within all of us. This light exists within all of us. And
that's all I see. That's all I can see.
Right. And it's beautiful, because I wish more people would see as you did, because this beauty is something that I've discovered myself and working to. Certainly there's moments where the past conditioning comes in and it might take over the mind for a bit, but that beauty is what I hope is what I see predominantly, what I look for to.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I think a world revolving around that beauty would be beautiful, for a lack of a better words.
And just as a cherry on top, when it doesn't matter if anybody else sees this, because we tend to want to change the world. I want everyone to see this way.
Yeah.
But if you're not there, then all you're going to see is your lovers.
Yeah.
And I think Ram Dass said something like this too. All you see is lovers, and you never run out of lovers to love. Because it's very clearly seen. Once this is seen through as not solid and real, then everything in your world that appears is not solid and real. You see it as unconditional love appearing. Now, of course, I can't put my hand through my phone or through your body. There's still a connection. We may go talk about recipes, go get a coffee, eat some bagels together. Who knows? But there is an intuitive knowing or recognition that you're not solid and I'm not solid. And so there's that lightness. That's the freedom. That's the joy, because none of it is serious anymore. It's quite literally what the Hindus called lila, or play.
Right. And life becomes play, and play is beautiful. And that's what that's what life is. That's the beauty of being in presence. It's such a beautiful
Beautiful.
concept.
Yeah.
It makes me feel whole. It makes it like I feel that wholeness and that
Yeah.
love.
And see, and we didn't do anything. You didn't tinker with yourself. We're just talking.
We're just chatting.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can the listeners go and connect with you and find you and go say hi,
Yeah. Check me out at wonderfullynothing.com. There you can find my Patreon, my Instagram, my YouTube, and all my other links. Because I'll tell you what, I'll get them all mixed up and confused if I list them all out. So if you want to list them, go for it. But yeah, if you just go to my website, wonderfullynothing.com, or at Anna E. Brown 7, that's my main page for Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Thank you guys. Yeah. Thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on.
Of course. Yeah. It was such a pleasure. And I feel like I've learned quite a lot from this.
Unlearned, right? Or unlearned.
Unlearned. Exactly. I've unlearned quite a lot. And I'm feeling very connected to presence and light.
See, it's like when two candles come together and just, you just light it. And ta-da!
Right.
That's all it took.
Right. It's so simple. It's so simple.
It's so simple. It's just this. It's beautiful.